She further found that the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack.
Do you have an opinion how those superficial abrasions occurred?
I do not.
Since Chloe's a good dog, she didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
I'm a good dog. I didn't do it.
Colin Albert.
How are you?
Didn't commit murder. Jennifer McCabe.
Jen!
Matthew McCabe.
Good morning.
And Brian Albert.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and good afternoon to the jury.
Not this again. Get this out of here. I wanted a steak.
I didn't get a degree. I'm from the UK.
This is Michael Morrissey, the elected district attorney in Norfolk County. He's the one who decided to prosecute Karen not once, but twice, and he made this special message to the public before trial number 1. Let's listen.
This will be the first statement of its kind in my dozen years as Norfolk District Attorney. The harassment of witnesses in the murder prosecution of Karen Reed is absolutely baseless. It should be an outrage to any decent person, and it needs to stop.
This big boy was getting pressure from the Alberts to make this public statement because after Brian Higgins killed John O'Keefe, Brian Albert was the one that helped him cover it up.
Yes.
The collateral damage, the other people that were accused, probably falsely, of being involved, took a lot of heat and potentially harassment from some people, which isn't warranted. However, a DA should not be making this statement in public because it could taint the jury pool for which the defendant, who's presumed innocent, is going to stand trial. Let's keep watching.
False narratives are not evidence. However, what evidence does show is that John O'Keefe never entered the home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton the night he died. Location data from his phone, recovered from the lawn beneath his body when he was transported to the hospital, shows that this phone did not enter that home.
The phone of John O'Keefe, according to this depiction, could be anywhere within the largest white circle.
That's the voice of Bob Alessi, who works at one of the largest corporate law firms in the world, DLA Piper, and he's questioning Sir Ian Whiffen with regard to the data on the phone. We just heard that meatball claiming that the phone never entered the house. That may be true. However, the data does not back up that claim. If you look at this big old white circle here, the phone technically can be anywhere within that circle according to the data. Remember, it's not always accurate. It could be off by a few feet. But when that meatball made the claim that the data from the phone excludes it from ever being in the house, that's technically false because we know it could be anywhere within this big old white circle.
I didn't get a degree. I'm from the UK. I don't teach any actual courses. I've not taken a class now since I actually joined Selbrine. So I have a blog.
What is freezing in Fahrenheit?
And this is Ian Whiffen, Sir Ian Whiffen. He's from the UK. He doesn't have a college degree in anything, especially relating to computer science. However, he was the expert called by the prosecution, and he worked for the company Celebrite.
Don't know, but it's 0 degrees Celsius.
Would you agree that 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing point in Fahrenheit?
I honestly wouldn't know.
This could include reasons such as the device entered a building covered area. Interesting, the very first reason you gave is that the device could be entering a building,
Garage,
or covered area.
garage.
And that phraseology could include a house. It could include a garage attached to the house, correct?
Correct.
And it could include the house at 34 Fairview, and it could include the garage attached to the house at 34 Fairview, because both of those are buildings or covered areas, correct?
Correct.
Sir Ian's expert report clearly sets forth that the phone could have been in the house or the garage, which contradicts the district attorney's representation to the public.
"11 people have given statements that they did not see John O'Keefe enter the home at 34 Fairview that night. 0 people have said that they saw him enter the home. 0. No one.
I can't say definitively I saw anybody come in or out of the house, but I think somebody might have been in the process of maybe being picked up.
Not anybody that you were super familiar with, is that fair to say?
I think it was one of the females.
Either of those people or any other people, no one else came into the house while you were there. Do you see anybody else come into the house while you were there between that 12 to 12:15 and 1:45?
No one else came in, no.
No one else came into the house after them, no.
No, they never came into my home.
Absolutely not, no.
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed never entered my house.
No, neither of them ever came into the home.
And at any point in time, did John O'Keefe come into the house?
No.
I did not see anybody.
You recall giving testimony at another proceeding on June 1st, 2023, correct?
Yes.
And during the course of that testimony, you admitted that you observed a tall, dark-haired male enter the Albert house that night, correct?
I believe that was in reference to ask to somebody's brother. And
Our cuddly but violent Higgy Bear was completely trapped. We found out that he actually admitted to seeing someone come into the house after everyone had arrived that was tall and had dark hair. However, he failed to tell the dopes at the Massachusetts State Police about that, nor did he admit to Lally on direct examination that he saw a male come into the house.
a pickup. I don't know if that was during.
All I'm asking you, Mr. Higgins, is did you say that? Did you say a tall, dark-haired male entered the house while you were there?
I said they might have.
Did you say they might have?
Yes, and that was in reference to somebody's brother.
Your Honor. You indicated that a male showed up who may have been Julie Nagel's brother.
I said might have, yes. I think it was one of the females.
But there was no question in your mind that a male did in fact show up, and you described him as tall and dark-haired, right?
Yes.
You were asked, a male showed up where?
I think it was one of the females.
And you answered, quote, showed up at the house that I didn't know. I think he was there very briefly. I was half paying attention to it. Question, did that male come inside the house? Answer, I believe he did. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So a male did come in the house that night, correct?
No, I said I believe he did. I wasn't sure.
Question, so you saw someone else come? Answer, somebody else. Yes, correct?
Yes, but I also said that I wasn't paying attention.
I realize that you want to explain your answer. I've asked you a very simple question. Was that your testimony in front of another proceeding?
Yes, it was.
At another proceeding, which you were under oath?
Yes, it was.
Okay. You also said you only remember seeing that person come in briefly, and it looked like he was having a conversation with the two girls, correct?
Yes.
At any point in time, not knowing them, did you see anybody else come into the house while you were there between that 12 to 12:15 and 1:45?
No one else came in, no.
After your Aunt JJ and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived at the house, who, if anyone else, came by the house that you were aware of?
No one.
As far as anybody else following them actually physically come into the house?
No one else came into the house after them, no.
You were asked how long was the person in there roughly, and you said it was quick. Less than a couple of minutes. It was quick, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked what he looked like, and you said, I feel like they were a little bit taller. They had dark hair, correct?
Yes.
So you testified that a tall, dark-haired male came into the house, at least briefly, correct?
Yes.
Approximately when in the timeline of events did that unidentified male enter the residence?
I don't know the time frame. It would have been while I was there.
Did you see anybody else come into the house while you were there between that 12 to 12:15 and 1:45?
No one else came in, no.
When you gave your statement to the Massachusetts State Police, you didn't tell them about a tall, dark-haired male coming into the residence at 34 Fairview, did you?
Recall.
You were specifically asked by ADA Lally when you testified before the state court grand jury on April 28th, 2022, who else was present, correct?
Yes.
And you never mentioned a tall, dark-haired male coming into the house, did you?
No.
Whoops.
Have, without any evidence, pointed to 18-year-old Colin Albert,
How are you?
a nephew of the homeowner, and accused him of attacking John O'Keefe as he entered the home. But phone evidence shows O'Keefe never entered the home at all. Testimony from witnesses tell us that 18-year-old Colin Albert had left his uncle's home before John O'Keefe and Karen Reed had arrived outside the residence.
That part is true. We know that little Colin Albert was picked up by Allie at 12:10 a.m. At 12:18 and 20 seconds, we know that Hen McCabe pulls into that driveway. Her daughter had already left. However, think about the fact that Brian Albert,
Yes.
who has to help his buddy Brian Higgins cover up this murder, now has to deal with the fact that his nephew is being pinned potentially for this because someone went to Yannetti and said that little Colin Albert and maybe someone else beat up John in the basement.
There was no fight inside that home. John O'Keefe did not enter the home. Colin Albert, the young man being vilified, was not present when Reed's vehicle and John O'Keefe arrived on the street. This is a false narrative.
Meatball is correct there.
Colin Albert
How are you?
didn't commit murder. Jennifer McCabe,
Jen!
Matthew McCabe,
Good morning.
and Brian Albert.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Your Honor, and good afternoon to the jury.
These people were not part of a conspiracy and certainly did not commit murder or any crime that night. They have been forthcoming with authority, providing statements, and have not engaged in any cover-up. They are not suspects in any crime. They are merely witnesses in the case.
Do you notice the one person this big boy didn't mention there?
Brian Higgins.
To have them accused of murder is outrageous. To have them harassed and intimidated based on false narratives and accusations is wrong. They are witnesses doing what our justice system asks of them.
Not this again. Get this out of here. I wanted a steak.
The autopsy of John O'Keefe was conducted by a forensic pathologist from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. The doctor found that the injuries that left John helpless in the cold were not a result of a fight. She further found that the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack.
Irini Scoribello. I am a medical examiner employed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
This fine-looking Italian sister is the medical examiner that was involved in this case.
So on his right eyelid, there was a small laceration, abrasions on the anterior and the left aspect of the nose, bleeding, and some swelling of the eyelids.
The injuries to John's face are not indicative of him being beat to death. They are indicative of him getting hit once and then falling back and hitting the back of his head.
Of both eyes. There were multiple abrasions, which I described as ranging from 2 to 3 millimeters and up to 7 centimeters.
You use the word superficial. What does that mean?
Superficial means that the abrasion
She's describing John's right arm.
is on the superficial layers of the skin, usually the epidermis and sometimes the dermis, but there's no penetration of the skin.
That's the same thing my ex-wife used to complain about.
There's no penetration.
When you're assessing to determine whether there's any penetration, do you measure the length of the wound?
Penetration would be measuring the depth. If there was actual penetration, I would have to measure how deep into the skin. In this particular case, you can see that these are scrapes or scratches, and there's no exposed underlying fat or muscle. I measured their length, but I did not measure their depth.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to how those superficial abrasions occurred?
I do not.
She further found that the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack.
Do you have an opinion how those superficial abrasions occurred?
I do not.
Incredible. Another lie by this big boy to the public with regard to the medical examiner's opinion as to how John got those marks on his arm.
A grand jury of everyday citizens heard the documented evidence and testimony before making a decision. The subject of that murder indictment enjoys the constitutional presumption of innocence. Why should the witnesses who have committed no crime be afforded less by members of the community? They should not be harassed for telling the government what they heard or saw. I'm asking the Canton community.
Fucking loser! You're a loser too, by the way. I'm sorry, you're beautiful, but you're a fucking loser.
And everyone who feels invested in this case to hear all the actual evidence.
To hear all the actual evidence before you make a determination, and that's exactly what the district attorney should be doing. He should not be making these representations to the public, especially since most of them were factually inaccurate, and even if they weren't, he still should not do that. Just because Brian Higgins killed John O'Keefe, he should not be harassed. He should be afforded the same opportunities Karen was when she was falsely accused of murdering John O'Keefe. But no matter what, we will never, and I'm speaking right to you, big boy Brian Higgins, ever stop producing these videos until the real killer,
Brian Higgins,
is brought to justice. This crime was very simple to solve because it took place within a very small area over a very short period of time with a very limited amount of suspects. One or more of these 10 people has to be the killer of John O'Keefe. That's how easy this is. Once you remove the kids and the McCabe's, you're down to just 3 suspects: Brian Albert, Higgy Bear, and Chloe. Since Chloe's a good dog, she didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I'm a good dog. I didn't do it.
So that leaves just 2 suspects, Brian Albert and Higgy Bear. But of the 2 Brians, only one had the means, motive, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe. And that's our old cuddly but violent Higgy Bear. Once we had all the facts and didn't jump to conclusions, do you see how easy it was to solve this crime?
Not this again. Get this out of here. I wanted a steak.